The Leica M11 has been my go-to camera for the last 2 years. From Rajasthan to Rick Ross with a Summachron or a Summilux, I've racked up 22,007 images since this camera became available. And like I've said in the past, if I could only have just one camera by my side, it'd be this one right here. Now look, some of you may be watching this channel for the very first time, so let me make something clear that these videos, they're not written, edited, shot, produced, directed to convince you that you need this or any other particular camera for your journey. In fact, these videos are far more selfish. This is about me talking about my creative journey. After taking this camera for a second lap around the sun, I'm gonna share with you what I've come to appreciate most, some of the things that can get better, and the single biggest way that this little camera changed my photography. If you're asking me, there are 3 things that make the Leica M series a truly unique product. Something that's sought after by so many and triggering for half the bearded dudes on Threads. The first thing, well, this requires a bit of a history lesson. Back in 1913, this dude, Oscar Barnack, he looks at the photography industry and says, "This sucks." Okay, maybe he didn't say exactly that, but he looks at the industry with its large cameras and big sheets, and there's this driving force inside of him that thinks that this can be done better. He then proceeds to invent the first commercially successful 35mm film camera. By adapting cinematic film into a prototype camera where the film rolls across horizontally, photography explodes into this new space where it becomes more ergonomic, more accessible, and just more fun. And I know what you're thinking, what does this have to do with the Leica M11? I'm getting there. Fast forward to 1954, about 70 years ago, the Leica M3 is introduced, and with it, the first Leica M mount. What's firstly remarkable about M series cameras is their commitment to sophisticated yet compact photography tools.
I think we try to stay in a certain way to what a Leica design should look like. In design, I think we try to stay, to develop our design that we can say, oh, this is a Leica.
When you have something that takes the latest in sensor and imaging technology and integrates it into a body that sits very comfortably in one hand with a lens attached, you want to take it with you everywhere. It unlocks this creative experience that you just don't find in most cameras. It builds this unique feedback loop that entices you to keep shooting. And again, that size, that form factor is a large reason that this happens. But it's just not the design that makes these cameras impressive. You see, these cameras are built different too. You pick one up and you suddenly wonder why your mom and dad didn't show you this kind of love before. There's a weight and attention to detail here that feels considered. Last year, I had the chance to visit the Leica factory in Portugal as they celebrated their 50 years of operation. Yes, 50 years, even through a revolution. And what stood out to me the most was how cross-functional this company was and how important that was to bringing this camera to life.
I think we feel proud to be, we feel us as part of Leica. We do not feel us as a Portugal or as a Germany, because in the end we are really one company. We have a lot of exchange programs. We have a lot of German colleagues here. We are also very, very often in Germany. So we do not have actually this feeling, I am doing that in Portugal and that's not being recognized. Because in the end, we do that at Leica. And we feel us really as a part of a big Leica family in terms of operation. And we feel that our task, our challenge, it's really to be able to anticipate a little bit what our colleagues from product management would like to bring to their products, so that Leica in the end can bring the right products to the photographers and that they can feel it. And honestly speaking, more than having a wish that the photographer recognize that Portugal does that, because we do it at Leica. And that's authentic how we feel it.
But I'm sure some of you are wondering, wouldn't this process make it more challenging to produce these cameras? Wouldn't it make it more expensive than a centralized strategy? Well, I asked Mr. M himself, Stefan Daniel, about this.
First of all, we are ISO certificated, both in Wetzlar and in Famalicão. But that's only setting the base. Then we have interdisciplinary teams of quality management, of industrial engineering, of R&D, of production, and they meet regularly, both. So the Portuguese guys come to Wetzlar and the Germans go to Famalicão, so that we create, we work as one team, yeah, independent from where actually the product is made. So quality isn't inferior in Portugal than to Wetzlar. It's because it's made by the same teams.
You don't have the M11 without this level of collaboration. While Leica is a German company, you have manufacturing and assembly happening across two nations, tapping into different proficiencies with a constant flow of employees moving back and forth, all to design and produce this physical experience that lives up to one really high standard. Now look, the physical experience, that's one great feature about the M series, but you need at least two more to really create a home run product. This year marks the 70th anniversary of the Leica M mount, 70 damn years. And with it comes the next benefit of an M series camera, access to so many different kinds of lenses. And this is a big differentiator, but I know what some of you may be thinking. Gadget, can't you just get these M lenses and adapt them to other cameras? Of course, you can do that, and you can also put almond milk in your coffee, eat gluten-free pizza, and spend your life savings on NFTs. What I mean to say is that some things just feel more natural. Owning a Leica M11 is a unique place to be because you get to really take advantage of some of the cutting-edge optics that are coming out of Leica, like a brand new Summilux 50mm f1.4. This is a lens that gives you incredible detail and resolution, but also just swims in bokeh.
The through focus behavior is different compared to an old non-aspherical lens. So the non-aspherical lenses, they go into out of focus like linear, like you said, right. And with the spherical designs, they are much more crispy in the layer where it's sharp, and it's falling off in contrast very quick. So that's why the rendering is Noctilux-like in the near focus area. Right. And the other thing is the bokeh. If the bokeh is soft and it is not edgy, it also feels more Noctilux-y.
Yeah. There's these premium specialty lenses that are being designed in a way that allow you to capture all the sharpness you need where the point of focus is, and then have this fall off that is non-linear, that accentuates the image. You know, take this photo for example. You have the thread in focus, and then you have this exaggerated fall off that is more than the f1.4 on the ring would indicate. You can also take this modern Leica and jump into the archive and find something vintage like this Sumrit 50mm f1.5. This lens is wildly unpredictable, and depending on what kind you get, the condition will impact your storytelling. As a creative, when you start to get really serious about the stories that you want to tell, you can start to think about how these lenses are going to add and contribute to your journey. And let's not forget, there's also a ton of other options, some competitive lenses coming out of companies like Voigtlander, or unique options coming out of companies like Light Lens Lab. You know, it's a unique and rare place to be, where not only do you have a quantity, a bunch to choose from, but also different characteristics to pull from to help tell your story. Now, the third thing I'm going to mention might piss some people off and maybe even piss off a few Leica users, but I think it's something that's just not talked about enough in public. There is an emotional element to investing in a Leica that other brands just can't seem to match. With most photography tools, it feels great to earn them, but at some point they become utilitarian. They get the job done, but they sort of just fade into each other, where it just looks and feels like everything else. Kind of like a smartwatch. This is where the Leica M series really breaks the mold. For most people, including myself, getting one feels like an achievement in itself. But even after that honeymoon phase, there is this lasting romance to an M that keeps you coming back. You can't help but admire it. Like saving up for that retirement Rolex, a Leica feels like something that you earn, and something that I'll tell anyone, you continue to pay your dues by shooting the hell out of it.
The percentage of the decision done by heart is extremely high, And if you now see it in the stores, if people see the haptic, feel the material, see the result, and if you are willing to invest on that level, you have no alternative.
The emotional element that Matthias was talking about is incredibly rare in the photography space, and 70 years removed from the first M camera, it feels stronger than ever. You know, this is something that some people may want to knock, but I'll say it time and time again, it's a feature. It's something that attracts new users, and something that you just can't fake. All right, so if you're still watching, some of you might be wondering, a lot of what I said could be applied to almost any M camera. So you're asking, Gajan, what is it about the M11 specifically that has you bought in after all this time? This sensor captures an incredible amount of detail with a ton of dynamic range in a very neutral color profile. The ability to navigate these tight spaces all over the world and even in some discrete environments and still be able to capture such a great starting point is what has me bought in. The battery life on the M11 is phenomenal. When people were lamenting the loss of this base plate from the M10, I was adamant that this improved battery, this larger capacity battery, was gonna be huge, and it is. The ability to charge really quickly via USB-C and shoot for days at a time is something that you really appreciate. A lot of cameras can do the former, not many can do the latter. And yeah, there's gonna be some people that wanna put their hand up and say, how hard is it to charge your battery every night? Well, I say, how hard is it being the most annoying person in your friend group? In all seriousness, when you're out and you're on assignment, or maybe it's just a trip, shooting for days at a time, week after week, you might not have the luxury to prepare as much as you normally do. Which leads me to my next point, and that's the internal storage. Imagine shooting 500 to 1,000 shots a day for 21 days straight with a questionable diet and this existential threat of whether any of this will ever matter. It's in times like this that you start to slip and you might not be preparing like you normally do. And it's in times like this where a camera with internal storage comes in handy. For that off chance that you might not have charged your battery, you might not have put the memory card back into the camera, the M11 gives you a bit of a safety net, and sometimes it might just save your ass. For me, it happened more than once. The next thing I appreciate most about the Leica M11 was how many firmware updates the camera saw. The software team works incredibly hard not just to keep these cameras running and working, but getting better year after year. This is an experience that, well, I haven't seen as regularly in other camera manufacturers. But some of you might be wondering, Gajan, don't you have any complaints? Don't you have any issues? Isn't there something that pisses you off about this camera? Well, I tend not to own and use cameras that have major problems, especially for the work that I do. But that being said, there are ways that I think that this camera can continue to get better. The most important update for this camera would be to address any remaining bugs and quirks that are afflicting some users out there. If you go online, you go to some forums, there are still a reasonable amount of people that have issues with the M11 locking up on them. While I've been incredibly lucky, going into the third year of this camera, I'd love to see an environment where they are practically flawless, that we don't have these software bugs or glitches. For tethered shooting, I know this is gonna be difficult, but it'd be cool to be able to write a copy of the file to the internal storage of the camera and have a raw file going to the tethered computer. Something else that would be challenging, and I don't even know if it's possible, but that top function button that you can customize, it'd be interesting if you could introduce a double tap feature that initiates a different function. Imagine being able to double tap this button and initiate a sleep mode into your camera, and then double tapping again to wake it back up. I know this sounds very niche, but imagine in JPEG profiles of this camera, you can set up custom frame lines, and especially cinematic frame lines. You know, when I'm working as a cinematographer or a director, I still have my M11 across my body, as a lot of others do. I know it's just not me. I would love the ability to use this camera as a viewfinder, as a director's viewfinder, where we can use it to even frame some shots. This is something that was introduced in the special ASC edition of the Leica M10, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'd love to see something like that be introduced to the M11 line as well. Speaking of the ASC edition, can we please get access to those special cinema JPEG profiles? These profiles were introduced for that camera, which, is only about 300 out there. And as Leica becomes more and more serious about video production, I think it'd be beneficial to reintroduce this to their modern lineup. And the craziest request of them all, what if there was a service where we can send our camera in and have the internal storage upgraded? I know this sounds wild, but hear me out. This is a camera that I see myself using for the better part of a decade. It's something that I really don't see myself getting rid of, being my first digital Leica. I'd like to even pass this down. So with that in mind, being able to take something that comes with 64 gigs and then bump it up to 256 or maybe even 1 terabyte, I believe that's a service that people are willing to pay for. Now look, that is quite a big list. So to the engineering team at Leica, good luck. 2 years ago, I sat down with Andrea Pacella, the Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications for Leica, and I asked him, how do you continue to grow the brand and build on its legacy?
We are trying to leverage on 3 things. Innovation, because we have to be innovative, because anyway, the cameras we do are a technological tool, which needs to be perfect, which need to be at the highest level of technology. To be at the highest level of technology and quality of image, with everything that is allowed today to get the best result is very important. The second thing is to do the innovation part together with our heritage. Because basically people buy Leica because it's a Leica, not because of pixels, not because of speed, not because many things that are taken in consideration when buying a camera. People buy a Leica because it's a Leica. Yes, it has to be at the highest level of technology, and it has to have the best image quality, because that's what Leica has always said. But all these, especially in communication, in marketing, in the way we do it, has to be paired with a great respect for our heritage and legacy. And the third thing is passion. It's the passion that we have in doing our cameras and our products and our lenses, and the passion that our customers have in using our camera. Buying a Leica, using a Leica, it's something that has strictly to do with passion.
Yeah.
And not only passion for Leica and for photography.
2024 marks the 70th anniversary of the M mount, and Leica feels more relevant than ever. The product catalog has never been wider, with new additions being introduced every year. I've taken this camera of mine all over the world, and what was hard to admit was how much better my work got after my transition to this ecosystem. It's just a weird, conflicting, boisterous thing to say out loud. Was it the camera? Maybe, but it just can't be that alone. Was it the glass? Perhaps, but it still feels too simple. Was it the shooting experience? I mean, that's a better argument, but it doesn't seem to encompass what I was feeling. I thought about this a lot, moving to this ecosystem and what it's done for my photography, and it wasn't until my last flight back from India that it finally hit me. The Leica M11 didn't make me a better photographer. I'm just having way more fun than ever before. Again, I'm not saying this to say that you should go out and buy a Leica M11. What I'm saying is that there should be an importance placed on finding the best tool for your creative journey. We live in this space, this photography space, where everything has to be measured and calculated and commodified, and we have to have one clear winner, and this just makes no f***ing sense. You should find something that really makes your journey that much more enjoyable. What gets lost in these online conversations and the dialogue around which camera is best for whom is the nuance, the intangibles, and really the feel of something. So if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, is that the most important thing a camera should do for you is make you use it. After 2 years with the Leica M11 and going into the 70th year of this system, I can't imagine a better tool that does that for me than this one right here. For those of you that are still here, welcome to the bonus round. I truly appreciate you watching all the way through. And before I get to the closing message, drop a flag, the emoji flag of where you're watching from in the comment, so I know where you're watching from. Last year, I got around to publishing 17 videos on the channel. This year, it might be a little bit less as we ramp up some creative projects. But that being said, if you go over to my photo club at Church Street, I'm publishing a brand new story every other week and it's free to join. If you love photography and you want to know more about my photography stories and not just the camera stories, I think that's something that you're really gonna enjoy. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, the first video of the year. I got something very special planned for February, so if you're not already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for that one. As always, my name's Gadgen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.